Hello, 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 and welcome to the final live stream of 2024. It is just going on 4 p.m. here at Marfogan Weather HQ in Edmonton, just north of Inverness. I hope everybody is having a wonderful holiday time at the moment. I know folks are off, some folks are working. I've been fortunate enough to be generally off this past work week. So it has been nice to catch up on some rest and relaxation, as well as that also a little break from driving up and down the A9 as well. So it's the 122nd edition of the Global Weather and Climate Report Live. And like I say, it's the final one of 2024. And is winter ready to fight back? That is going to be the big question as we go through the next little while or so. We are going to look at some of the snow charts, some of the 850 temperatures, the 2 meter temperature anomalies. We do certainly have a lot of weather coming up, and it is going to be an interesting one. The first person on today's live chat is our very own Paul James. Thanks for tuning in, Paul. We've also got Braemar, Ballater, D-Side and Donside Weather. Good afternoon to you, Daniel. Hazel Kitching, we've got James Hope, we've got Paul Farwell, we've got Craigie Boy tuning in, Frog's Legs, Matthew tuning in as well. So we are seeing the names popping up on the live chat. A very warm welcome to everybody, and thanks for tuning in this Sunday afternoon. A rather drab afternoon, may I add. The rain is chucking it down here. Did do a little live from the view from the kitchen window looking out the back this afternoon, both on Twitter as well as Facebook. It was quite windy actually earlier on, and the winds have kind of died down, but the rains have really picked up. Let's come off this screen because we're seeing more than double, and I don't want to dazzle people, but I hope you're well. Have you had a lovely Christmas? Are you looking forward to the new year? Have you got any plans for the new year? I'd be curious to know in the live chat what folks' plans are. Are you working or you get the chance to have some time off? I'd also equally be interested to find out. But I want to take this opportunity first and foremost, before we go into the details of today's content, I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody for their tremendous support over the past 12 months or so. We're obviously coming to the end of another year. It really is quite remarkable to think that we're coming to the close of 2024. And it is obviously, like I said in videos around the Christmas period, it can be a very difficult time for a lot of people at this. It gives you time to kind of reflect on the year just gone. It also gives you some thoughts about people who have maybe passed on. And it can be a funny old time of the year when you're seeing one year end and another year ready to begin. So let me just see here. Can I get onto the live chat? Because I'm having an issue here with the phone. There we go. That should work now. I also want to thank everybody, by the way, for viewing the videos over the last 12 months. Also, a massive thank you to the moderators. We've got Paul James, we've got Sing Splint, we've got Lisa, and we've got Lindsay, all on the moderating team and I really massively appreciate everybody's support. The moderators, thank you for taking the time. Pretty much every time the live stream is on, these good folks are joining in, taking the time out of their busy lives to help me out with the live, making sure that everybody is being kind to one another. But I want to say a thank you to Sing Splint, to Paul James, to Lisa Pattenden, and for all your support over the past several months. But we've got 44 concurrent viewers at the moment here. You know the script, you know the drill. Be sure to hit that like button, and it lets YouTube know that you're enjoying the content. It just helps the channel continue to grow, and hopefully through 2025 the channel will continue to expand its reach over the YouTube platform. But a massive thank you to Lindsay for tuning in. She happens to be enjoying some TV next door, but thanks for for tuning in anyway, Lindsay, and your support. We've also got Soft Shallow also tuning in. Good afternoon to you. Let me see who else. We've got Menzie54 tuning in as well. We've got James Hope also on the live chat this afternoon. Who else have we got here? We've got a name that I can't actually pronounce, but they say hi everybody. I'm not going to embarrass myself by trying to say that name. I do apologise for that. You know who you are. We've also got Daniel Morgan also tuning in. A very good afternoon to you, Daniel. It's always good to see new names appearing on the live chat. And if you haven't already dropped a comment, please do so. It would be good to see you, give you a shout out, and if I will do my very best to answer a few questions. We've also got Katrine tuning in. Good afternoon to you, Katrine. Hope you've had a lovely Christmas and you're keeping well. I'm sure the good folks down in Kirkintilloch will probably be tuning in at some point. Yes, what's the weather conditions like? It is a rainy one as you didn't really see a sunset here because it's been quite soggy in the last couple of hours. It's actually turned out to be quite a wet month compared to recent months here at Marfogan Weather HQ. We've had well over 100 millimetres of rain, probably pushing 150 millimetres when all is said and done, and that it could actually be one of the wettest months of the calendar year here. Anyway, I know obviously like England and Wales has had quite a lot of wet weather in recent months, but up across further north, it has been somewhat drier during the past 12 months or so here in Scotland, with the exceptions of being like Skye and some parts of the western side of Scotland. I think we had a particularly wet August, if I can remember. But generally speaking, it has been dry across the north, and it has been largely wetter than average across England and Wales, or the majority anyway of England and Wales. So these are the current temperatures across the North American continent. We've got minus 30s up across Alaska versus a plus 23, 24 Celsius over Florida. Skip over the Florida Straits into Cuba and Mexico. We've got 28 Celsius, 30 Celsius in a few parts of Cuba, for example. In the Hispaniola, we're kind of knocking the door of 30 Celsius at the moment. And then into parts of Central America, we're also talking about temperatures generally low to mid to high 20s. So that's a quick overview. You can see here a slight warming now starting to show up over eastern portions of the United States. We've got colder driving south over the northern and central Rockies, the northern plains. But as that colder sinks southwards down the Rockies, we're seeing a surge of milder southwesterly winds. We've also seen a very devastating tornado outbreak in parts of Texas in recent days. New York City had its first white Christmas since 2009, back on the big day itself. So 15 years since the last time New York City has seen a white Christmas, up until 2024. So I'm sure the folks in NYC have been pleased to see that. Good afternoon to David Vogan. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you both are keeping well and not eating too much at the moment. So have you finished your fudge yet, Dad? I would imagine you probably have, along with those crisps. Anyway, so that's the current temperatures across North America. Let's look at Australia, down under, summertime obviously. We're talking about upper mid-30s across northwestern, western Australia. Slightly cooler, obviously it's a different time of the day between the west coast and the east coast, but we've got slightly fresher temperatures. It's probably dawn. I'm trying to think what the time difference is. Are we talking early to midday in the east side of Australia? But we're talking generally low to mid-teens anyway, down across the southeast. Then obviously in the tropical north, anywhere from Queensland up to northwestern portions of Australia, we're talking generally mid to high 20s and low 30s across the tropical north. So that's Australia. We've obviously got hot, humid conditions through Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, for example. so no real surprise here. You would expect to see that. And then let's go across to Brazil and see what the temperatures are looking like. Hot, hot, hot and humid across the majority of the South American continent. We've got temperatures as high as 37 Celsius in the northeast of Brazil, and down into parts of Argentina and Paraguay, Uruguay. We're talking about temperatures into the 30s as well. Looking at the temperature anomalies through the past 29 days of December, with 2 days left to go, and you can see that we've got through the mid-latitudes, actually, anywhere from North Africa through the Middle East and across Central Asia, China. It's actually been a colder than average December, but cast your eyes just to the north of China up into Kazakhstan and Mongolia. We've got temperatures generally on the rise as you go further north, and then it's been an incredibly mild December up in Siberia, where temperatures has been as 20 Celsius above average across many areas of Siberia. North American continent, we are now starting to see with the warming of the air mass as it progresses eastwards over the lower 48. We're starting to see the temperatures rise. That temperature anomaly, we did have quite a cold anomaly showing up from the Great Lakes into the eastern side of the lower 48 for a period of time now, but that's starting to get chipped away as the warmer air gets lifted northwards over the eastern side of the continent. Perth, Western Australia is 8 hours ahead, says Paul. Thank you very much, Paul. I can always count on somebody to help me out while to try and avoid embarrassing myself too much. Look at Greenland, by the way. Quite a cold anomaly here across Greenland, and we've obviously had quite a strong positive North Atlantic oscillation. That is about to change, by the way, as we move into the new year. Looking at specifics, let's have a look at Europe. And this will wind up to be a warmer than average December. That was part of both the December outlook as well as the winter forecast, that December would turn out warmer than average. Quite pleased actually with how that's looking. So who else is on the chat at the moment here? So Paul says also Sydney is 11 hours ahead of us. So 9 hours or 8 hours, is it? 8 hours in Perth. Am I right in saying? I think I'm starting to get more confused in my old age. But certainly Sydney is 11 hours ahead of the UK. We've also got Joyce tuning in. Good afternoon to you, Mum. Hope you're keeping well, enjoying your day. So yeah, Perth 8 hours ahead, while Sydney on the opposite end of the country is 11 hours ahead of us here in the UK. Fudge gone ages ago, says Dad. Daniel says was going to do a few Munros across the Cairngorms over New Year, but I'm checking your forecast first. I would be very cautious, my friend. I think we're going to see very significant amounts of snow. If you do happen to want to get the gear on and head off into the Cairngorms, I would be very, very careful, Daniel, because it looks as if we're going to see some very, very nasty conditions. Hurricane-force winds, blizzard conditions, bitterly cold wind chill, and that is pretty much a given as we go through the coming days to come. We've got cold air lurking just to the north of the UK at the moment here. That will sing south. A couple of areas of low pressure that will move from west to east across the northern UK, but each passing low will allow the infiltration, that's a good word, infiltration, if that's the right way, the right term, that will start to sink southwards as we go through the next several days here. Question marks over just how strong this cold air mass is going to be. I know quite a few folk jumping on the gun to individual model runs, and I do know that I obviously show you individual operational or deterministic model runs on the videos. However, it has to always get taken in with a pinch of salt. It's good to look at like GFS, ECM, Met Office, the Arpege model, the Medio France model, looking at all the different models, and once they start to come into better agreement, then it's always a little bit better to you get a better handle in terms of accuracy and the greater the probability. Once those models start to kind of come together with a particular solution, then you start to take it with a little bit more seriousness. And obviously we're getting closer to the period of time now that we are going to see these deep areas of low pressure moving across the UK. Cold air is going to mix in. I think we've got a much greater chance of seeing significant snow across more northern areas of the UK as opposed to further south. But we will look at the models in a little while or so here. But there is still some uncertainty with regards to the finer details. But this is a channel that I'm striving to provide you with accurate, non-hype, unbiased content here in the channel. It's not for clicks. It's not for attention. It's just simply providing you with accurate information, and I'm also giving you the background as to why I think a certain weather pattern is going to take place. This was expected that we would have a largely mild December. There was question marks over the timing of the next cold phase of the Manjulian oscillations. We're seeing that phase 7 of the MJO. We're seeing that the response to the atmosphere with the building of pressure up into the Arctic region, that's going to disrupt the polar vortex over the next week or two here. Exactly how much disruption that is still remains open to question. But nevertheless, we are going to continue to look at this pattern as it changes. It could turn very, very interesting indeed. Obviously disruptive, and we are approaching, the New Year festivities. A lot of people out and about, people visiting family, partying outdoors. It could become quite problematic. So I just want to emphasise that point that it can be a dangerous time when you've got the inclement weather during the Christmas and New Year time, especially with folks out drinking as well. Folks that are perhaps under the influence of drink, when you've got exposure of cold, can become quite dangerous. So I really want to emphasize the point to take care of yourselves out there this New Year period. We don't want to hear of people succumbing to the elements or cold weather conditions. So yeah, I know that's a little bit of a kind of serious one and maybe a little bit heavy, but I think it's worth pointing out anyway that nasty, severe weather at this time of the year can be particularly dangerous when you've got a lot of people out and about. I also want to say a thank you, first and foremost, to Lindsay for the 99p super chat. I don't know exactly what it's called. I'm sure it's super thanks, but there's also super chats as well. But thank you to Lindsay for that. I also want to say a thank you to Peter Tarski. I hope that's the right pronunciation. Thank you very much, Peter. He donated £10 back last week. So a massive thank you for your very kind donation and kind words. And again, thank you to everybody for your kind support and comments over the last weeks and months. We continue to see this channel grow, and I'm absolutely over the moon with how things are going. So anyway, warmer than average across the majority of Europe. Let's have a quick look at down under Australia, New Zealand. We're talking about warmer than average conditions for the month of December, with the exceptions of that little area in inland northern Queensland, slightly colder than average here. This is off the CDAS 0.5 data, by the way. Let's have a look at Africa. And you can see that's quite an interesting one. Quite a lot of northern Africa, north of the equator, is actually below average, if you notice here. And warmer than average, we've obviously seen record-breaking heat across many of the South African countries. Brutal heat here, 46, 47, 48 Celsius temperatures. Let's have a look at North America, and it has obviously been quite an interesting December with fluctuations between super mild conditions and some rather cold conditions. But look at this here. Much of Canada, in fact, pretty much all of Canada, apart from the, what would that be, up towards the far north. It's actually escaped me. The Equilute region, I think it is pronounced. Probably not, but that's my interpretation of it anyway. You can see here up the east coast of the United States is colder than average. The majority of the lower 48 is actually slightly warmer than average, as you can see here. Down in South America, We've got quite a cold area, far south Brazil into the central and northern portions of Argentina. Some coastal areas of Chile is slightly cold on average here, probably foggy conditions, I would imagine. You've obviously got La Nina. Those colder waters can create more fog along the coastal areas of this part of the world. Let's have a look at other areas. Have I missed out anywhere? Let's have a look at Asia and look at how warm compared to average it has been. Obviously, we know it's not warm, but when you're talking 16 to 20 Celsius above average, that is quite a significant anomaly. But look further down through Central Asia, so Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, all the stands, generally colder than average, and then you skip across China, quite a cold anomaly, especially over western portions of this vast country, slightly warmer than average across Inner Mongolia, I will get there. You can see here far northern portions of China. We've got a bit of a split here over Mongolia, colder than average across central and southern portions of the country, slightly warmer than average near to that warm core up across Russia. We've got largely warmer than average across Kazakhstan. We've got 60 concurrent viewers at the moment here. Before you leave today's chat, please hit that like button. It would be greatly appreciated. So let's move on here. Have I mentioned the folks, the super thanks? I've thanked the moderators. Let's look at the La Nina. Interesting things going on with the La Nina, by the way. And this has got to do with the Manjulian oscillation being in phases that favour stronger winds at the surface blowing from east to west. That allows the waters at the surface to cool, and therefore we have seen significant cooling now starting to show up across the Niña region 3.4 of the Pacific, and you can see that drop off quite steadily here to around 1.5 degrees below average. So the temperatures were kind of fluctuating, and again that depends on the position of the Manjulian oscillation, where that rising motion is versus the sinking motion, and then the winds between the two then essentially either create westerly winds and therefore the temperatures at the surface warm up. But when you've got easterly winds, that tends to create upwelling, so cold waters from subsurface rise to the surface and cool. And we've been seeing the MJO stuck over the Indian Ocean, sinking motion over the Pacific, so therefore the winds have been blowing stronger, both at 850 millibars all the way down to the surface, and that has been allowing this temperature to drop from 0.5 degree to 1.5 degrees. So you're talking a full degrees cooling between around about the end of November through the month of December. There's been a steady cooling of the Niña region 3.4. It's not coincidental, by the way, that this 1 degree cooling within the Central Pacific has occurred when you've had the MJO rotating through phases 2, 3, which is the Indian Ocean, into phases 3 and 4, which is the maritime continent. We've had a lot of sinking motion over the central and eastern Pacific, and winds blow from essentially high pressure to low pressure, and that has been allowing the cooling to take place over the central portion of the Pacific basin. So I've looked at La Nina. Looks as if we're seeing some cooling starting to take place. My concern with regards to the MJO, now in terms of cold, a favourable phase for negative Arctic oscillation, North Atlantic oscillation tends to be when the MJO is stuck over the Central Pacific, phase 7 and phase 8. That cooling may not necessarily be a great signal for the MJO to get into those phases as we move towards later in the winter. But the warming waters further north may counteract that less favourable. It may counteract the less favourable by having warmer than average waters further north of the equatorial belt. So let me continue to crack on here. In terms of the polar vortex, and then we'll look at some of the output for the coming period. So obviously the 850 temperatures, this is off the GF, the Met Office model, sorry. We've got some slightly cooler temperatures, not really a great deal if you notice, -1, -2 Celsius across the far north of Scotland. but we've got 5 and 6 Celsius down across the southeast and also across the north of England as well. We are going to see that change dramatically over the next few days here, but I want to show you a vertical cross section of the polar cap heights. So this is essentially a slice of the atmosphere from 10 millibars all the way to the surface. We've seen a lot of blocking during the autumn season. We've seen disruption to the polar vortex, stretching and pulling of the PV due to this strong blocking over the Arctic atmosphere. But then we've seen, as we moved into the month of November and December, we've started to see the polar vortex way up in the upper levels of the stratosphere start to cool. And you can see these blues starting to turn deeper. But what's more important about this is the fact that this cold temperature up in the upper levels of the stratosphere has been slowly but surely kind of drifting and propagating downwards into the lower levels of the stratosphere and even into the troposphere. What that's done is it's allowed the polar vortex to become stronger within the Arctic region. That then pulls all the cold air and keeps it like a tightly wound circulation over the pole. But in turn, it's allowed higher pressure within the middle altitudes to lift northwards. Hence why we've had quite a mild December through North America, through Europe. But we are going to see big changes taking place. And likely that is down to the Mont-Julian oscillation. So let's have a quick look at the MJO. So we've seen the strengthening of the polar vortex. We've seen the response to milder conditions through the middle altitude belt of the world, the northern hemisphere. We're now in phase 7. Granted, it's not overly strong, but nonetheless, we're still in a phase 7 of the MJO. And if we then look at the Arctic oscillation, we can see that it is going deeply negative. Now, the question mark is going to be, it's going to turn colder, but how cold and for how long is it going to turn colder? And also, we need to remember that high pressure near the UK could essentially keep the core of cold away from us in the UK and Ireland. So it's not a given if we have a deeply negative Arctic oscillation and a deeply negative North Atlantic oscillation. These two factors, these two indices, which are a measure of pressure between two given points, it doesn't guarantee that we're going to get bitterly cold conditions here in the UK and Ireland. The finer details have you can't just ignore certain things and just say, right, we're going to see this given this, that, and the next thing. It's not quite as simple as that, but that's the negative Arctic oscillation. Here's the negative North Atlantic oscillation. So these two factors, I might be contradicting myself slightly, but these two factors are favourable for a colder pattern, but there's still not a true guarantee that the cold is going to reach the UK and Ireland, because all you need is that blocking high to be too close to the UK and Ireland. We've seen that essentially in 2010-11, where we've seen minus 18 in Amsterdam, but very, very little in the way of bitterly cold on the other side of the North Sea in the southeast of England. East Anglia, for example, we had almost the North Sea, the dividing line between bitterly cold and something a lot less cold. So that has to get taken into consideration, but I'm becoming more and more confident that we are going to get cold and we're going to stay reasonably on the cold side of things through a prolonged period of time. There may be a little bit of waxing and waning here and there, but generally speaking, I think we are going to turn cold and we are going to stay largely cold for the next few weeks anyway. So that's the MJO polar vortex. Let's have a quick look and see what the latest model run is showing. So let's go onto the weather charts website. Bear with me just a little second here. Let's go to the Northern Hemisphere view, which we're on. Let's go to the 10 millibar level. This is the temperature and the heights. So this is the latest look. This is looking down over the pole. And we've got the polar vortex here. A little bit of a stretching showing up here. But the core of the cold, where that sits, we may see some nacreous clouds, some beautiful polar strat clouds develop. And if you get that core of cold centered over us here in the UK. We've seen it last year, if I'm right in saying. We've also seen it the year before, especially after a major sudden stratospheric warming. But let's play through this loop here and see what the latest run of the GFS is indicating here. So play through. We know that the heights are going to rise across the Arctic region. Look at the difference. Look at the change in shape, the stretching, the pressure. Look at the warming taking place over the Eurasian side of the pole. Very strong warming showing up. But the question mark is this enough to either collapse it, split it, displace it in any appreciable way, or is it essentially a blow that the polar vortex can fight off and then it kind of regroups once again? So I'm not necessarily looking at this and going, right, we're going to have a sudden stratospheric warming. I don't think that. I'm not buying into that one just yet. There's not enough warming taking place. There's not enough pressure being put on the PV in order for us to actually see an SSW get triggered. We need these wave breaks to take place and almost the flow to kind of collapse onto itself, and then for the winds to reverse from westerly to easterly. Had to think there what the direction I was talking about there. But yeah, it's an interesting one. And the reasons for that is the fact that we're going to start to see the troposphere expand, and therefore when you expand the troposphere, you shrink and contract the stratosphere, and then when you've got these little waves dancing around the lower portions of the stratosphere, that's what causes the weakening of the winds circulating around the vortex itself, and these warming episodes that come in and try to attack the PV from out with. So that's essentially what we're seeing going on at the moment. So that is some tech discussion with regards to the polar vortex, MJO, AO, NAO. Let's look and see what's going to happen over the coming days. So these are the 850 temperatures. These are the temperatures at 5,000 feet above our heads, are around about that anyway. Mild conditions across the UK and Ireland at the moment. You can see that here, that we've got the cool-ish conditions across the European continent. But look at Iceland. That is them. They're already in the bitterly cold Arctic air. And that is not necessarily minus 18, but that is the air mass that we're going to see coming down over the next few days in the run-up to the new year. So UK is in mild conditions at the moment. Iceland, minus 18 in the interior of Iceland at the moment. These are the temperatures across the British Isles at this time as I speak. And we're talking generally 8, 9, 10 Celsius across the north. Further south, we've actually got the coolest conditions down across parts of southern and southeastern England, which is interesting. 4s and 5s, generally even 3s around the London area, which is quite interesting given how mild it is across the rest of the British Isles and Ireland. A lot of fog in place. I did watch Big Jet TV. I quite enjoy aviation, and I was watching Big Jet TV from Heathrow back earlier this afternoon, and very thick foggy conditions down in the London area. I'm sure folks that are watching this can vouch for that. But where the winds have been blowing, it has been milder across particularly western side of Ireland, parts of Northern Ireland. We're seeing ever so slightly cooler conditions here, and then the further north you go, we're in the milder air thanks to that westerly wind. But let's have a look at the model. This is off the Met Office model, and see what happens with this 850 level as we progress through the next few days. So we've still got we've got actually a little tongue of something cooler moving through central Scotland during the course of today. And watch what happens. Remember, there's areas of low pressure that are moving from west to east. But as these systems move east, we're starting to tug on that cold. Look at this here. 22Z this evening, Sunday. We're now starting to see -4s and 5s showing up across the far north. Still mild there across the rest of the UK and Ireland, even 5s and 6s down across southern UK. So we've got 5s and plus 5, 6 and 7s across South England, South Wales, but we've got -4, -5 across the far north. So we're seeing that big divide in terms of the air mass continue to play through. In comes the cold air, and we're talking about the -5, -6, -7, -9 Again, there's a little bit of fluctuation because we've got these areas of low pressure moving in, so the temperature is going to jump up and down a little bit here, and then continue to play through. Look at this here. As we move towards 0Z Wednesday morning, the 1st of January, this is a far cry compared to what we've seen Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. Remember, parts of the UK were waking up the double digits above freezing on Christmas Eve. We're going to be waking up New Year's Day to 850 temperatures of -10 Celsius across the north. Still slightly milder across southern areas, if you notice. Then as we continue to play through, another little surge of milder conditions as the next area of low pressure moves in from the west. And then again, we're continuing to cool that column, -10, -11 Celsius as we move towards early Thursday morning. And then we continue to see that colder coming south as we progress through the course of the day. So as we move through the course of the upcoming week, we're going to see the temperatures dropping. Let's have a look and see what the snow prospects are. Many people want to see snow. Well, look, there's 03Z on Friday morning. We've got a fairly decent snow cover across northern portions of the UK, even northern England. We've got as much as what this is in centimetres. So this is obviously raw model data. You can't take this too literally, but interesting enough, across north of Inverness, probably to the east of Aviemore, we're talking upwards of 100 centimetres of snow in some high elevations. So I'm sure Daniel in Braemar, you're going to be looking at a significant amount of snow. Lee in Carr Bridge is going to also be talking about a significant amount of snow. And then even down towards Rich's territory in parts of North Yorkshire, we're going to be talking about some very significant amounts of snow over this region. If this model was the be-all and end-all, we know that it isn't. We know that different model runs are going to have different outcomes, but nevertheless, that is an interesting one. Let's go back and play through the sequence. So at the moment, too mild, no snow to speak about. Play through the loop here, even as we move deeper into this evening. Even those 850 temperatures are -4, -5. We're still not really talking about anything snowy yet. Get into tomorrow morning, the early hours of the morning. That's when we start to see that engagement between moisture from low pressure and the colder air joining forces to then start to lay down that snow. And then we play through the loop during the course of Monday. Notice there's literally nothing during the course of tomorrow, according to the Met Office model, to the north or to the south of Inverness anyway. Continue to play through. There we start to see the snow lay down. Now, I hope I'm not up and down the A9. I'm actually due to possibly work on Tuesday, Hogmanay, and I'm kind of hoping that I'm not required to go out, because that could be a bit of a challenging drive for myself up and down the A9 on Tuesday. But you notice here there's a little bit of a slight retreat of the snow because of the next low moving in. So we're actually seeing a little bit of a northward retreat in the snow. Probably low elevations, we're going to see less and less. There's Ireland starting to pick up in snow, southern portions of Northern Ireland, Northern England. This is the next low moving eastwards, but further south than these first couple of lows. So as this cold air continues to push southwards, we're seeing these areas of low pressure track further south, and that's going to allow more areas to see the snow. We've got a massive 104 concurrent viewers at the moment. A massive thank you for tuning in to the final live stream of 2024. I hope you're enjoying the content here, and I hope it's understandable for folks that are tuning in, especially if you're maybe not as meteorologically minded as other folks are. I hope it's easy to understand, and I hope you're enjoying it. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We are going to have a very interesting week of weather coming up. But then as we continue to play through, you see here that the snow is generally northern portions of the Republic, Northern Ireland, Northern England, and much of Scotland here. Even the lower portions of Highland Perthshire, for example, the Central Belt, may have a slight hard time seeing a great deal of snow. Let's have a look at let's go to the precip and cloud real quick off this very model. So we've got the heavy rains moving in. I do apologise, by the way, if I'm cutting off southern areas of the UK. I know I've had a couple of folk complain that why am I cutting off southern areas. It's not deliberate. It's actually just the fact that it's trying to click the buttons and fit it into the screen. That's the only reason why I've had issues with that. And I do apologise for that. So there's the rain that we're seeing here at the moment across more northern areas, high and dry but foggy across parts of England, Wales, and probably Ireland, Northern Ireland as well, with that stagnant area of high pressure that has been dominant really since the back half of Christmas. There's the snow starting to fall, and the snow level is going to drop as we progress through the course of tomorrow. Continue to play through. That system then moves eastwards. The frontal boundary starts to weaken as it sinks southwards. Then the next system comes in from the west. It engages with the cold air in place. Heavy snowfall breaks out, especially above 100 to 150 metres above sea level. Play through the loop. Again, remember I mentioned the retreat in that snow across the Central Highlands, Central Belt, for example. The reasons why is we're seeing slightly milder air getting lifted north ahead of that next system. That system then clears eastwards. Then the next system moves in. And notice that the moisture is further south. That's because the track is further south. The colder air is now starting to force the storm track further south. And therefore, we're seeing the snows break out across northern portions of the Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, southern Scotland, northern England. That then clears out and then we're left in the cold air. Let's have a quick look at the temperatures, because we are going to be talking about sub-freezing temperatures next week. Daytime maximums most likely double digits below freezing by nighttime. So again, back to the here and now. Mild at the moment. Play through the loop. We're still reasonably on the mild side as we move into the overnight period. Then we've got a few sub-freezing showing up in the far north as the colder air ever so slightly starts to drift into the northern areas of Caithness, Sutherland, parts of Ross-shire as well, especially over high ground. And then continue to play through. You can see here we're still reasonably mild, 9-10 Celsius up into the Central Belt. Big contrast, by the way, on Tuesday. Sub-freezing across north of Inverness, 10 Celsius between Edinburgh and Glasgow. So we've got a very big, sharp divide in that air mass boundary during the course of New Year's Eve. Play through, you can see here as we move during the course of Tuesday, Hogmanay, 15Z, we've got 9 Celsius between Glasgow and Edinburgh, even 10 east of Edinburgh, as you can see, according to this model anyway, but we've got 0 Celsius up towards the Lurg, Altnahara, Kinbrace area, probably sub-freezing all day long, while we've got double digits across the Central Belt. Continue to play through, there's the cold air starting to kind of engage further south. Another surge of slightly milder lifted northwards, but it doesn't get as far north during the course of New Year's Day itself. Continue to play through, and you can see here that we're starting to see that colder air. There's -10 showing up by the time we reach 6Z Thursday, 2nd of January. And then it would not surprise me if we get even colder still as we move towards the end of the week. So we've actually got -13 showing up. So we've got +10 Celsius on Tuesday, the final day of 2024. By the time we reach 21Z Thursday, the 2nd of January, 2 days later, the raw model data anyway, I know again, this you can't take this literally, but it's interesting nonetheless what the model is showing. Showing -13 Celsius around the Livingston area on the 2nd of January. So very fascinating stuff indeed. Let's have another wee quick look here at, this is off the GFS model, and this is for Aviemore. And we've got the temperatures of +8 Celsius during the course of today. Then we'll start to see a little bit of a drop off. There's snow projected by the model here. This is off Weather Central, I think it is that you pronounce it. But by the time we reach 9 o'clock on Wednesday morning, so this is New Year's Day, we've actually got -6.9 at Aviemore. So +8 Celsius this afternoon, -7 a few days later. And then maximum temperatures -2 on Wednesday. So New Year's Day, according to GFS raw model data, is showing a maximum -2. We've got lows down as low as -8.4. Maximum during Friday, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. -3 temperature Aviemore. Even as we move towards Saturday, -2.4 for a maximum after a minimum. Friday night into Saturday, or this is late Saturday, sorry, -9.3. And we actually do not see a high above the freezing mark pretty much from what, Wednesday all the way through to the weekend in Aviemore. Let's have a look and see what Glasgow is showing off the same model. And we're actually seeing a couple of days where it doesn't get above freezing even in Glasgow. So we've got 0.7 Celsius at 12 on Thursday. We've got 12 Friday, -0.8. We've got some minimum temperatures down to -5, if you notice here. And again, we've got slightly above the freezing mark, according to GFS, 0.6 on Monday. That is the 6th of January. So we've got a pretty cool week coming up. And then the model sees a little bit of a recovery into week 2 of January, which is interesting. Let's go to Manchester and see what it's indicating here. So slightly milder conditions for longer down across northern portions of England. Maximum on Tuesday, Hogmanay, 10.9 Celsius. Then as we move towards to Thursday, 12 o'clock, for Manchester, a high of 2.2. Overnight temperatures below freezing. We've got a maximum of 1.4 on Saturday. This is around 12 o'clock. And then we've got a little jump to 7.2 on Monday, the 6th of January. So even down into Manchester, let's have a quick look and see southern areas. Let's go to Brighton on the south coast and see what it's showing here off the modelling. Again, the further south you go, you hold on to something slightly milder for slightly longer. So New Year's Day, we're holding on at double figures above freezing. Then after that system and Wednesday moves through, we're in the colder air. We've got a temperature at 15 Thursday, 1500 of only 5.6. We've got the temperatures at 1800 on Friday, 3rd of January, 4.5. So we're down into the low single figures, even on the south coast, as we move towards the second half of this upcoming work week. So obviously this week hosts the end of 2024 and the beginning of 2025. It's going to turn colder even down across southern areas of the UK as we move towards the latter half of the week. Looking now at the GFS ensemble for the upcoming 5-day period. Now this model is still updating, so I'm actually having to show you a slightly out-of-date 06Z version of this model. So this is looking down over the northern hemisphere. We've got the positive heights now building up into Arctic Canada, up into Greenland as well. This is the 6 to 10 day period of the model, and we're starting to see that positive heights over Greenland. We're seeing the negative over Europe here, including UK and Ireland. We've also got another negative. So very mild conditions over Eastern North America at the moment. That is going to change as we move towards the period, which is the 3rd through the 8th of January. And then the 11 to 15 day, we have got this look here. We've got some positive heights extending into the UK and Ireland, but nonetheless, we've got a lot of positive heights up into the Arctic, negative heights over Eastern North America. It'll be interesting to see if we have a negative over western areas of Europe. Let's have a quick look at the Europe view and see. So let's go to the upcoming 5 days. Just bear with me a second here to get the right chart. I do apologise. So this is the next 5-day temperature anomalies. So generally average to below average across the majority of the UK and Ireland. Norway, Sweden, Finland, central areas of Europe, colder than average, and then central and southern Europe is warmer than average. The days 6 through 10, you can see here that we're starting to increase the cold here, especially across northern UK, but not exclusively. The whole of the UK, according to this model run, is colder than average, and that is us now taking out the 3rd through the 8th of January. Skip out to the 11 to 15 day. Cold eases according to this model, but this is out to nearly the middle of January, and it's still showing a cold signal across particularly northern UK, which is interesting. Still got 99 concurrent viewers at the moment here. Like I've already said several times over, I do apologise for repeating myself. Please hit that like button, and also if you haven't already done so, if you're interested in all things weather, and particularly winter weather, hit that subscribe button as well. Absolutely free, 7 days a week content here on Mark Fogan Weather on YouTube. So that is a look at the GFS ensemble. Let's quickly look at the weeklies. You can see here, this tends to be a warm biased model. So England and Wales is actually warmer than average through the next 7 days, which is quite interesting. Colder than average across the bulk of Iberia and France. Central and Eastern Europe is warmer than average. Week 2 is rather cold looking, and that is quite different than the GFS ensemble. This is the problem that we have. You look at different model runs, you get different outcomes, you get different strength of cold, different solutions in terms of snow projection. We're going to look at the snow projections in a lot more detail over the next few days here as this weather turns colder. So that's week 2. Let's look at week 3. Still showing cold. This is now the period 12th through the 19th. This is typically a warm biased model. And the CFSV2 is holding the cold across the majority of the European continent, which is rather interesting, isn't it? So, yeah, our good old CFSV2 is holding the cold longer than the GFS ensemble. So yeah, that's rather fascinating. Let's skip out to a week beyond. It's starting to turn milder across the UK and Ireland, but granted it's the 19th through the 26th of January. But look at Europe, still colder than average, which is pretty interesting stuff. Massive thank you to Daza. Wow. £20 donation. A massive thank you, my friend. That is very, very kind indeed. And I hope you have a wonderful new year, and I hope you've enjoyed your Christmas yourself and your family as well. So thank you very, very much, Daza, for the kind donation. So I want to quickly, before we end today's stream, let's have a quick look at some of the things that have been going on around the world. Granted, it is a global weather and climate report, but let's look and see what our friend Lisa is doing out in Sweden. This is a report from Lisa.
It's very wintry.
Now, just to give you a little heads up, she is in Abisko in Sweden, which I believe is in northern portions of Sweden. I hope I'm right in saying that. But Lisa was meant to come home, I think, this weekend, but because of the cancellation of the trains, she's been stuck there. And I think, if I'm right in saying, Lisa is due to come home now on the 31st of December. So safe travels, Lisa. I hope you have a safe journey home. But let's have a listen. It might not come out, but let's see what Lisa's got to say.
Okay, I'm reporting from the Arctic Circle here, everybody. It's very wintry in the Arctic Circle, in case you didn't know. Check it out. See? Winter wonderland. Very windy on the lake. Everybody's coming to see the wind and the snow. The snow is coming from there. And voila. There's my winter report from Sweden, Abisko.
Thank you very much, Lisa, for your report. It was good to hear you. Like I say, have a very safe journey home when the time comes. Let me just stop this just for a little second. We're getting a little bit of feedback now. So, let me see here. So this was some of the happenings. This is off Weather Monitor on Twitter, and some quite interesting updates. We've obviously seen quite a devastating tornado outbreak in Texas. This is debris flying through the air in Katy, Texas. This is a Sunterra subdivision, and I think there has been at least one death due to these tornadoes. Another video here. So you can see the funnel cloud obviously touching the ground, which means it is a designated tornado. Has caused some very significant damage in parts of the state of Texas. So our thoughts and prayers are with folks near Katy, Texas, that has been devastated by a tornado outbreak. Let me see here. We've also got some significant flooding in some places. Let me see. We also seen some did you see some of the waves battering the Peruvian coast? Now this is, by the way, from Orla. This is a video from Orla based in Nuuk, Greenland. They had a major power outage. But listen to that wind. That is a minus 27 Celsius wind chill. What makes it worse here is the fact that they've not got any power. So I think the power was out to the majority of the Nuuk community, which is on the west coast of Greenland. And with wind chill down as low as minus 27, a very serious situation indeed. So according to Weather Monitor, but this is a video I want to emphasize by Orla. I think there's been a few folks sharing this video without crediting Orla. So I want to emphasize that point. Power outage hits Nuuk, Greenland amid freezing temperatures. Yeah, I think power is now restored to this community up on the west coast of Greenland. This is another video from Orla himself. Quite a beautiful part of the world, it has to be said. So our thoughts are with those folks. I certainly hope they've warmed up after 12 hours without power on the west coast of Greenland. So let me see here. We've got Thierry Goose. Let's have a quick look at some of his tweets as well. So mild conditions, eastern portions of Canada as high as 16.0 Celsius, I think it was. Let's continue to see here. So obviously mild conditions have been mentioned in parts of Siberia. Oymyakon, the icebox of Siberia, has just reached its first minus 45 and minus 50 Celsius for the first time this season, December 28th. Now, this is very late. That sounds cold, but this is the coldest inhabited community on the planet. Temperatures of minus 45, minus 50 Celsius is normal at this time of the year, but it's by far the latest minus 45 since 1943 in Oymyakon. The latest first minus 50. The previous record was the 26th of December 2013, and a record warm December is still to be confirmed, but it looks as if Oymyakon is going to see its warmest December on record here. And like I say, the records go back to 1943. So in Oymyakon, according to Thierry, December 28th was the first day below normal of minus 2.7 Celsius below the average. That's the first below average temperature in Oymyakon since the 24th of November. So quite stark, warm compared to average up here in the Siberian wilderness. And even temperatures, it's mild when Thierry is based in Vancouver. He says it's warm and much above normal when late December, the lowest temperature in the nighttime anywhere in Canada is above minus 30 Celsius. So the coldest place was Pond Inlet. So this is December 27th. Pond Inlet was the coldest place at minus 29.4 Celsius. Now you would expect minus 30s, minus 40s, even close to minus 50 at this time of the year in Canada, especially Arctic Canada. Continue to play through. We've had some significant snows in parts of British Columbia. We've had a few systems come in off the Pacific. Some record-breaking heat down in Chile on Christmas Day. We had a temperature of 41.5 Celsius at Negret. That's only 0.4 Celsius below the December national record that was set in just a couple of years ago in 2022. So very hot conditions on Christmas Day, very close to the national Chile record here. Let's continue to play through and see if there's anything else of interest. Then we will round up exceptionally high temperatures in South Africa, as high as 46.9 Celsius in one spot. Monthly record only 0.9 Celsius below the December record for the whole of South Africa. Temperatures as high as 45.4 in this other location, Vredendal, I think it is, 0.8 Celsius below its December record. So we've obviously seen some pretty hot conditions. Like I say, New York City, first white Christmas just gone since 2009 here in Central Park. That's where the official records are set and recorded for the New York City area. Let's continue to skip through. Big snows in parts of Italy during Christmas Eve. This is a tweet here by Meteo and Radar showing the massive amounts of snow here. So the translation says, evening falls and the situation worsens further. It is difficult to walk through the streets of Campo de Giove, probably the wrong pronunciation, I do apologise, with more than a metre of fresh snow fallen. So that is the upper elevations of parts of Italy seeing major snow. But very strong winds at the Sartine Island in British Columbia, winds in excess of 182 kilometres per hour. That was back on Christmas Eve, December 24th. I think I've spoken long enough. We'll end with this. 301 centimetres of snow, level snow depth at Tsukayu Onsen. Well, elevation at 890 metres in Japan. Obviously, parts of Hokkaido in northern Japan among some of the highest snow totals you'll find anywhere on the face of the planet. This is some of the snowiest places on Earth, along with parts of the western North America. So we had, back on the 23rd, a level snow depth of 301 centimetres of snow. But an update here says 308. This was on the 24th at the Tsukayu. And then as we play through, there was another update. I think there was even more snow in this particular location here. This is a tweet here by Bad Weather Station saying that 308 centimetres is 212% of the long-term average for this date, which is Christmas Eve, of 145 centimetres. Still a long way off the outright maximum. Look at this, 566 centimetres set in February 2013. So yes, we can get monstrous snow as those Siberian winds blow over the relatively warm waters of the Sea of Japan. Very similar idea to the Great Lakes in North America, where you've got the Arctic winds blowing across and you get massive snow amounts. I'm going to try and round up here, but a massive thank you to Peter Pan for a kind donation. Thank you very much. You folks are just wonderful and so kind. So I thank you very much. It's very humbling, the kind support that you have given me. This is an epic live stream. I have now surpassed 1 hour, so I'm going to try and round up. Always try and keep it between 45 minutes and 60 minutes. Thanks also for tuning in, Lisa. You are a wonderful person. I hope you have a safe journey back home again. I think it's 31st of December. Am I right in saying that, Lisa? But a massive thank you for your update back a little while ago. So let's go quickly through the live stream and the live chat and see who else is still on. We've still got 92 concurrent viewers at the moment here. Before you leave the chat, please hit that subscribe button and also hit the like button. It lets YouTube know that you're enjoying the content. So a massive thank you to Katrine, Lindsay Vogan, Ethan, Lisa, Daniel, Mark, not myself, it's Mark Hayward I'm talking about. We also have Ethan, Katrine, Paul, James. Massive thank you to Paul for your moderation, not just for today, but also throughout the past few months. Thank you very much to Peter Pan for the kind super thanks or super chat, whatever it may be. We've got Chris A. Who else have we got? We've got Mark Hayward. I'm probably repeating myself here. Glenn Kelly is also in. Ethan, we've got Hazel Kitching. Thank you to you for tuning in. We've got Frog's Legs Matthew. Also, Certain, Not Certain. Thank you very much also for tuning in. We've got Jack Lowe. Anybody else? Have I missed anybody out? I probably have, and I do apologise. Massive thank you to Daza for the very, very kind, generous donation. And thank you to the moderators, like I said already. We've got Jack Lowe. Also thanks to Daniel for tuning in, Braemar, Ballatar, D-Side and Donside Weather. David Vogan and Joyce Vogan for tuning in. and I hope you have a wonderful and blessed New Year as well to you, Mum and Dad. We've got City Andy also. Good afternoon to you. If I haven't already said hello to you, City Andy. I was in the groove. I was in the zone a little while ago talking about our weather this upcoming week. So I do apologise if I've missed anybody out. We've got Jamie. We've got Learners. I think that's how you pronounce it. Probably not. Outcast Land 35. I don't know, is Gavin doing a live this evening at 6 p.m? If he has, do check out that over at Gav's Weather Vids. So, yes, I don't know if I've missed anybody out. I do apologise if I've missed anybody out at all. Do we have another? We've got Vicky Wallace. I think that's a relatively new name, but a massive thank you as well to Vicky. This is unbelievable. Thank you very much for that very kind super thanks, super chat. You know what I mean anyway, but thank you very, very much for the kind donations, everybody. I hope you all have a wonderful, blessed, safe and healthy 2025. I will be back. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. I'll be back tomorrow with the European Outlook, looking at the finer details with regard to this rather interesting week of weather coming up. So I am going to close off there. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll see you tomorrow with the European Outlook. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. Bye-bye.